This is Trophy the Scoundrel's Quarter, Part 11. We are playing Trophy Dark. We are in Ring 3 of the Flocculent Cathedral. Now, there are many things we don't know because they have passed on into legend, or because stories that have made their way to us over the centuries have gotten shaped and changed, put through the filter of the storyteller's bias. But even more mysterious to us is, what did the treasure hunters dream of after they collapsed to the ground, feverish from bug bites, having survived the swarm? Does the mannequin dream at all? It is an interesting question. We cannot know, but surely the dreams were feverish. Surely the dreams were an intermingling of pleasantness, of treasures that they might find upon reaching the Flocculent Cathedral, but also dreams of terror. We cannot know. We can only speculate. But we know. Indeed, Valen, Parda, and Diane, in your way, you do all collapse in the middle of the day, having endured something quite terrible, this horrible swarm, having endured the pain of your digits fusing together, Diane, having endured various terrors, visions of your companions rotting, Parda, something crawling about in your teeth, Valen. Osto, do you sleep?
No, I do not.
Hmm.
I rest, but I don't shut down, so to speak.
Those of you who sleep, you have feverish dreams wherever exhaustion deposited you. Feverish dreams. Dreams of drowning, dreams of disintegration before myriad mandibles and stingers. But dreams of what you desire as well. Valen, tell me about how you dream of your drive.
The cult that Valen once belonged to was, let's see, he's a bit of an heir to a throne to this cult that was once led by his mother before a bit of a schism and a coup. And after his mother's death, what has seemed to make the most sense to immortalize her name and to ensure that her power will last forevermore is to get her name into the Azure archives. And during this feverish dream, he finds himself there in that vault of lore. But every book he finds and picks up is moth-eaten and just full of eggs and crawling things. And finally, the whole of the convoluted labyrinth of shelves and scroll holders seem to crawl and warp. And as he screams, moths fly from his mouth.
Parda, tell us about your dreams of Cyrus, the Earthen Council, and of the disintegration of the swarm.
I dream that I am finally facing down Cyrus. He's standing there looking upon me in fear. He knows what's about to come. I pick up my axe, but as I hold it, the wood of the handle becomes soft and sticky. I look down and it's covered in maggots and sap. It starts to disintegrate as termites start to burrow their way out of the handle. I realize then it's not just the axe disintegrating. My hand is going along with it. And as the black sap runs up my arm and spreads into my body, I know that I look like what my companions look like to me, rotting away.
Diane, tell me about your dreams of the swirling court.
Diane dreams of being by a pool in the deep forest and looking down into the water. They see the reflection in the ripples, but the reflection is of a stag-like creature rather than themselves. And as they look, up and down flip over, and they are pulled into the water, but as though they're rising up into the depths. And the bubbles swirling around them are populated with spirits of the water that surround them, swirling and dancing.
Osto, what are you doing while you wait for your companions to wake up?
He's essentially just seated there, seated, watching his companions sort of toss and turn in their fitful sleeps. He's quiet, but he's panicking a bit. He can't stop feeling those ruby spiders making their home inside of him. They've devoured almost 90% of the other organisms that were inside of him, and he feels helpless. The one thing that was strong enough to fight them back is gone. It's no longer inside of him. And so I think he's just he has this one eyelid just sort of like blinking in panic. And we see that webs have started to amass all over him. And he's doing his best to sort of swat them off whenever they show up on the surface. But I think he spends most of this night just sort of, pleading with them to stop.
Osto, as you look at Valen, passed out, what outward manifestation of the swarm's malignancy lingers on Valen? How will it threaten your success if not kept in check?
I think for Osto, he's read folk tales and fairy tales about the wisdom of moths and the idea that they carry that wisdom because they're all sort of souls that have been recreated into this sort of insect form. And I think that he sort of believes that. And so I think that he's already seen some of the kind of like moths swarming around him, and he's seen the cocoons that have been forming in his mouth. But I think that we're now starting to see what look like, if you look at the way that moths sort of have that like eye-like pattern on their wings, we're starting to see kind of like fungal growths that appear like eyes, but they're growing out from his mouth, across his jaw, down his neck. And to him, he thinks that he's getting a sense of not necessarily clairvoyance, but a sense of foresight that the moths are giving him that will give him some kind of advantage as far as getting to this place before any of us.
Interesting. Interesting, interesting. Balin, you start to come out of your sleep. You look down the stony path and you see Parda collapsed there. Same question. What outward manifestation of the swarm's malignancy lingers on Parda? And how will it threaten your success if not kept in check?
I think we see that in sleep, Parda has actually been visited by the moths that know the secrets of this forest. And all along Parda's arms are trails of silk that spell secrets that were Parda to make it to the Azure archives. That would be so much more valuable than his mother's name. This cannot be allowed.
Intriguing. Parda, you also come out of your exhausted slumber, as do you, Diane, in another part of the forest. Each of you discovers something on your person or amongst your gear that a loved one or a friend has included, a physical token to remind you of them or your drive or just home. What do you each discover as you're going through your gear, maybe taking a little bit of food as you prepare for the next leg of the journey? What do you discover, and what memory does it evoke? And whoever wants to go first can.
I think Osto finds on him a small little toolkit full of very crude, rudimentary tools, like a little Allen wrench, so to speak, a little screwdriver. He remembers the maker and the way that he used even those very crude tools to create him. He remembers watching. His head was made first, and the mechanics that are used to give him vision were there when he witnessed his own body get constructed with these tools. And so I think that as he's looking them over, they've started to sort of rust over time, and because of disuse, they haven't been getting much attention from him. But they definitely kind of bring him back to that place.
Diane finds a ring that's made of gold, but looks like a circle of thorn branch, and it's kind of a symbol of the swirling cord, the circularity and the nature theme. But of course, now as they look at it, they no longer have a finger that it would fit on, and that's seems like an omen of doom for their drive.
Valen,
Go ahead.
Valen finds a small bottle of a blue powder sand that once filled an hourglass, a symbol of the membership in this cult. It was left by the boy he'd hoped to run away with.
Parda finds down in the bottom of her rucksack a folded piece of parchment, and unfolded, it is a crudely drawn map, a treasure map. It's just signed with an X, but she knows that it's from her cellmate in prison, who supposedly had buried treasure somewhere in the forest. The map, I mean, it doesn't have a lot of directions. Her cellmate did not know how to write, so it's just drawings of landmarks that Parda doesn't recognize, but she hopes once this is all over, she can try and find these landmarks and follow this trail.
And here I think we'll just pick up with the scene a little bit between Valen, Osto, and Parda, since you're all in the same place. Perhaps not right next to each other, but you're all in the ruins of this sort of Stations of the Saint structure. You all know what you know. You know the betrayals that have taken place. You can address it or not, but in any case.
Yeah, I think since Osto hasn't been sleeping, he would go to Parda as she's still sort of unconscious, and I think when she comes to, she just sees this mannequin with holes and covered in webs, only one set of eyelids, sort of just looking down, staring at her, sun sort of against him, creating a silhouette.
My hand goes to my axe, but I don't move to attack. Just being prepared.
Do you have
Oh,
your axe again?
do I? No, I don't. I lost my axe. Oh, I'm so sad. I forgot about that. My hand goes to where my axe normally would be, and it's not there. I'm just grasping at air and ground, and I look up at you. Well, good morning then.
Are you looking for something?
Well, something that I've seemed to have lost. There's no point in looking for it here.
I suppose there isn't. Why did you throw that log in the middle of our path? Were we not supposed to be working together?
I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but you and our other companions are rotting away. Something in this forest has taken you. And if I stay with you all, it might take me.
Used to
If
say
I
it,
can
ours it
get
hasn't.
to the cathedral, perhaps there's something there I can use to save you all.
I think of this, Valen will approach and say, that's ridiculous. You're seeing things, Parda.
Do you not see all of the holes in Osto? Do you not see the markings on your own face?
Simple
The
weathering
smell alone.
on our mannequin friend. Just weathering. Rust and the like.
Parda does bring up a good point, though. What is that on your face?
I simply don't know what you're talking about.
Interesting. I imagine that the cathedral is not long ahead. Parda, will you be throwing any more logs in our way? Or will you be coming with us?
Well, I seem to be unarmed, so I suppose for now it's likely safer to travel with you, but please keep your distance.
Very well. And one the eyelids just sort of twitch.
I purposefully walk like upstream of where Valen's smell won't get me.
Diane, as you come to, you see that woman whose face and hands are aflame. Who knows how long she's been standing there watching you passed out. She beckons for you to follow. Do you?
Yes. Flame is my element.
How is it navigating the ground, the terrain, with your new hoof-like feet? What is the experience like?
I think it feels surprisingly natural. The form of these feet it seems designed for picking its way through the undergrowth and finding, they find themselves springing from rock to log to ground, and there's an agility that it brings with it that is not what they expected.
As you get closer to this woman, who may very well be Saint Ara the Torchbearer, as you get closer, whenever you reach wherever you expect her to be, she's a little further ahead, continuing to beckon. She's definitely leading you somewhere. What are you thinking right now?
I'm thinking that she's leading me to the cathedral, to my goal.
She is also, perhaps not intentionally, but she is also beckoning whatever it is it's following. This thing behind you, which sounds tall because it brushes up against the branches of the trees, which lands with very heavy footfalls. You can even hear it occasionally splitting wood as it presses against trees with its bulk. As you get closer to her, it gets closer to you. This goes on for a time. Osto, Valen, and Parda, you're also heading in the direction of what you believe to be the flocculent cathedral. At one point, you come across a wide, shallow pool, perhaps 60 feet across, filled to overflowing with clutches of frog eggs the size of fat grapes. And at another point, a reminder of the civilization that used to be here. A handful of ancient practice dummies. They stand in an ankle-deep bog. They have been impaled with rusting swords and rotting arrows. Sprays of dark red moss grow from wounds in a pattern reminiscent of bloodstains. And so passes ring 3. Let's take a 5-minute break. Ring 4. Now, of course, we get to the part of the tale that you've all been waiting for. The part of the story that they write songs about, that they write plays about, that all of you have heard from the time you were mewling children, scared of monstrosities hiding under your bed at night. It's time for the terrors of the forest. The monstrosities, the horrors that beset our treasure hunters on the way to the flocculent cathedral. But was it truly horrors delivered by the forest? Or was it cruel, monstrous pranks being played by the entities calling themselves the saints? Who could say? We are going to go deeper than what lurid descriptions of night terrors and zombies and titanic beasts would have you normally think. We are going to get to truth. Or are we? It is interesting, for example, that the nameless saint supposedly did not wish to give the gift of death to Parda, the sweet mercy of the slumber of death. It is intriguing that instead the nameless saint chose to withhold merciful death forever, even when the body and the biology could no longer sustain such a thing. Indeed, the nameless saint sent bloated, fungal-infested heralds of her mercy, or lack thereof, to Parda. Indeed, Parda, perhaps staying a little ahead of the group, even if you are with the group, you come across a trio of other people in the forest. They are sitting around what look to be the long dead remains of a campfire. They are bloated. They are reeking of rot. Hundreds of black and purple mushrooms the color of ugly bruises sprout everywhere from their skin. They squat around a long dead campfire in some reenactment of their former life. Parda, make a ruin roll.
Got a 1.
What do you do when you see them?
I think I've been warily expecting something weird and strange to happen. And when I come across this trio, I'm not ready for what I see, but I was ready for something jarring. And I think I stop and wait and see if they move.
They do. They turn their necks, or what qualifies as their neck, what is in fact just a puffed up, bloated sack of purplish flesh. They turn to you. One of them points at you with a puffy, distended finger and calls out, "It's so hard to summer festival." And then they get up, all three of them. They heave their bulk. You can see the purplish spores floating off their body, almost gently. It'd be beautiful if not for the particular context. And you can see now, Parda, each of them reminds you of one of the other three of your ostensible companions. Make another ruin roll.
3.
What is the thing about one of them that reminds you of Valen?
One of them is holding the bloated digits of its hand up to its face to cover its teeth, or if there were any teeth in this being. And as it walks with the same gait that Valen walks with.
It lumbers forward. Another one reminds you of Osto somehow, even though it's not mechanical. What is it?
It's full of holes, like Swiss cheese, and in and out of the holes crawl ants and bugs, spiders, all the kinds of creatures that tend to grow and live in fungal infestations.
The third one, how does it remind you of Diane?
I haven't seen Diane's feet get turned into hooves, right?
You have not, but that might be an interesting
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah, I think it
Nonetheless.
is. I think it moves like Diane does, and it looks almost like it's a flame, just the way the light from the trees, the light from, you know, the around the area reflects off of the luminant purples and blues of its body. It looks like it's got purple flames rising from it. Strangely, it does look hooved.
You can hear Osto and Valen just behind you. They haven't come upon this scene yet. The three bloated creatures are closer than ever. Parda, what do you do?
Oh goodness. Are they armed? Do they have weapons?
No, but I don't think you want to get grabbed or touched by these things regardless.
No, I just wanted, if they had a weapon, I might be able to steal it because I don't have
No,
one right now.
no.
I would like to do a ritual. I want to do my ritual provoke in hopes that I can get them to freeze or flee.
Okay, sounds good. Osto and Valen,
Sorry.
you see Parda doing the first steps of her provoke ritual. What does that look like, Parda?
I think it's getting physically as big as I possibly can, like a bear getting up on its hind legs, or like a pufferfish puffing up, just sort of making myself as wide, as large, with my arms up in the air and my legs splayed, in order to eventually, as the next part of the ritual, let out a huge bellow
Hmm.
in order to do what I have to do to frighten these things off.
Osto, Valen, you've seen this trick before. You know what Parda's doing. And then you see what the target of Parda's magic is, which are these hideous beings. I would like for the both of you to roll Ruin as well.
Two.
5. So my ruin goes up.
Your Ruin goes up, Osto. Osto, that puts you at 5, right?
It does.
What do the two of you do?
I think Valen will turn to Osto and say, She's going to turn them on us again, like that moth.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes,
covering
she
the mic.
is. I've seen that movement before. And as part of my reduction roll, I would like to use a ritual myself. I don't know if I could do this. I'd like to use a ritual swarm to trade a favor with a colony of vermin. The favor is that you can find a new home in Parda. Much more warm and comforting.
Very good. But what do you want the swarm to do?
I want the swarm to invade Parda.
Oh, to invade Parda. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. It's a favor and
A rehousing.
task. Yeah. Very interesting. Parda, first of all, let's see how you do with turning away these beings. So we've kind of established what's at stake here. Actually, what this might kind of be is a contest role between the two of you in a kind of weird way. Because you do have slightly different goals. Like Parda, you're trying to just complete your ritual, and Osto, you're trying to destroy Parda. So like it does feel like a contest role. If you're both okay with that, I think it's probably the right move.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love rolling contest rolls with Amanda.
Why does it sound so familiar?
I know, right?
Let's go ahead and Osto, or I will give you the benefit, Parda, or Osto, of the reduction roll for triggering this, though. So go ahead and roll that.
It's a 6 on the reduction
Okay.
roll.
So Parda, you know what's happening. So Parda, now that you know what Osto is doing, you can tell that he's like summoning a swarm to swarm you. Do you want to change what you're trying to do?
Yes.
Okay, what is your new aim?
I want to continue the ritual that I am doing, but instead of causing these bloated mushroom things to freeze or flee, I want them to fight whatever Osto is trying to throw at me, which I assume is going to be bugs.
Okay, good. Very interesting. This sounds like a horrifying scene, but I'm super into it. We'll come back to the contest roll in a bit. Let's check in with Diane. Diane, you finally reach the woman whose face is aflame and her hands are aflame. She does speak to you, her voice crackling with fire. She says, "Behold, mortal, I am Saint Ara the Torchbearer. I am the light in the darkness. I am the well-lit path that leads you from the gloom. I am venerated by all treasure hunters, but those who would wield the furious red flame in particular owe their fealty to me. Do you give me fealty, treasure hunter?"
I think Diane just wordlessly drops to their knees in front of her.
I set before you a task. Though it is a task, if successfully completed, comes with reward. I shall light the way directly to the flocculent cathedral. If you, after finding your way there, will remain here as my guardian, as my representative, as my avatar of the Maya,
And what of the swirling cord?
do as you will. so long as you eventually return, whether that be a year from now or many decades hence.
I shall.
She looks up. She touches the top of your helmet, which has already started to split open from the antlers growing from your head, busting through the metal. And she touches your fused together hoof-like hand. She says, "Already the form of your service to me takes shape. I fear there is another, however, one that will take not kindly to being usurped. And indeed, this is when the thing that's been following you makes itself known. It is a colossal rutting stag, the color of jade, at least 15 feet high at the shoulder, which means it's probably 20, 25 feet high in total, with a rack of razor-sharp antlers overgrown with thick moss and lichen. Its nostrils spew clouds of spores, but also hovering above its head is the flame of Saint Ara. It is beacon, it is guardian, and this is what you will be someday by making this arrangement with Saint Ara. But the old guardian will not be turned out so easily. Diane, what do you do?
I stand and face it and engulf my body in flame.
Now, per the rules of Trophy Dark, you cannot combat the creature in order to destroy it. You can do almost anything else, though, in order to get past this situation. Think about what you're going to do in a bit. I'm going to cut over to Valen. Valen, you can see that the situation is about to get out of hand between Osto and Parda. They are turning magic on one another. Clearly, their little detente is over. It did not last long. And you have a decision to make, Valen. Are you going to intercede here? You can join the contest roll if you do. Or you can do something else. You can keep going deeper into the woods. You can use this opportunity to get past these monstrosities. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think I'd like to sneak away.
Yeah, I think that's probably, as long as you do that, you can do it. I don't need you to like do any rolls or anything. The monstrosities in Osdo and Parda are well in hand and busy. As you sneak away, you noted that you don't follow any of the sisters, that your cult is well, tell me about your cult. Like, what's their deal?
The cult doesn't have a figure per se. They have a goal, and that is to find a way to outlast this world, this incarnation, like the old Kaldur, the people of old Kaldur. This will fall, and this cult wants to be what rises. So they study time in the hopes of finding a way to finally defeat it.
I love that. That's very, very interesting indeed. Give me a moment to look through some notes real quick.
It's always funny when Rob gets up and it looks like he disappears into the forest.
Yeah, it does. Okay, I've got it. You see a vision of a woman as well, Valen. Ghostly white moths begin flying out of your mouth, fluttering out of your mouth, and swirling around this woman whose face is hidden by a cowl. They begin swirling around her. I would like for you to make a rune roll first, right now.
A 5, so I'm going up.
To what?
5.
And then this woman beckons you away from the group. She says, "You have rejected the faith that is stewarded by the sisters. I myself am a saint, though I have no name. In truth, I wear the mantle of saint as a mere convenience, because I am something much older, much more timeless than the faith of the sisters."
His eyes widen and he'll say, "Then you know how to persist."
I do indeed. In some sense, persistence is what we do. The sisters, or the beings that call themselves that, have to find a way to survive in every era. They must become fashionable for their age they find themselves in. A very disruptive moment at the symposium. That is not how the story goes. That is certainly not how I understand it. You are adding that detail in. No sister who appeared before the treasure hunters ever said that the sisters are false. You're making that up. Am I? Or am I just giving you my interpretation from all the many, many hundreds of sources I have consulted on this legend? Grumble, 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 grumble. Nevertheless, the nameless saint has spoken this to you, Valen.
I would learn if you would teach me.
Yes, I can. I can teach you how to master death. I can teach you how to outlast all.
Whatever the price, I will pay.
To outlast all, you must first outlast them. Talking about your companions. 2 of them, it would seem, are way ahead of you. And indeed, Osto and Parda, we know what we're trying to accomplish in this contest roll. Let's read the rules to it so that everybody understands what's going to happen here. If you want to follow along, you can hover over the rolls on the left-hand side of the character keeper. When treasure hunters act against each other, compete, or want to inflict harm on each other, first agree what's at stake. Osto is trying to destroy Parda by having bugs swarm Parda. Parda is trying to have the bugs be devoured by the 3 bloated monstrosities. Let's gather dice. You gather 1 light die if you have a relevant skill. Do you?
I have vermin.
I have beasts.
Vermin, beasts, I'll take them both. You get 1 light die for each mark of ruin you currently have. You both have 4, and so you're both up to 5 light dice. You get 1 dark die if the contest is inherently dangerous. I'd say it is. So you're now at 5-1. And then you take as many additional dark dice as you are willing to risk. Are you ready to enter your selections? Your wagers. Osto is in.
I'm in.
Parda is in. Let's roll the dice. Quite a roll. We're looking for 6s, and Parda has risked an extra 3 dark dice, but has managed to get 4 6s in total. Osto has risked an extra 7 dark dice, but has only gotten 2 6s in total. Also, Osto, you got 2 1s on your dark dice. So, Osto, you are ruined out. Parda, you are not, and you win the contest as well. Parda, you're in control of the narration here. What happens?
I think what happens, these mushroom monstrosities, they do start to charge. They charge into the fight. They charge towards this swarm of insects that's coming from Osto. And it's like one of those moth lamps. As the bugs fly in towards these creatures, their luminescent purple and blue skin starts to frizzle and fry. You can hear the zap. You can smell these swarms of insects hitting them and just frying, catching into little flames and dying. And they just keep coming and coming. And I think what happens is all of the bugs in Osto are being drawn towards these creatures, towards the luminescence as it just keeps going and going. And they cannot help but leave the safety of the nest. And then Osto is completely empty.
Osto, narrate your succumbing to the forest.
So as the ruby spiders start to exit his body through all the different orifices, through his arms and his chest and out of his mouth and out of his nose, we just sort of see him realizing that he's not in control anymore. We realize that the spiders were doing a lot more inside of him than he actually initially thought. They were essentially keeping his infrastructure intact with these webs. And so when they start to flee his body and scuttle over towards the clickers, they fry, but we start to see his body, his limbs starting to dislocate and fall to the ground. And by the time the last spider has left his body, he realizes that he can't be held together. And so there's a moment where he sort of staggers and stumbles as he's trying to approach Parda. And he just says, "Oh dear." And he collapses into a pile of wood and brass.
Jack, the scoundrel's quarter, is going from 4 to 3. How in the symposium does the energy change, or does the scene change to sort of reflect the forest having less of a hold on the quarter?
It's a small thing, but during this symposium, there's been a custodian of sorts, like a janitor, who's been keeping the place tidy, and we see him starting to clear out webs out of the corners of the roof in this space that they're speaking in. And this custodian is just sort of going around clearing out, shooing out pests, and that, you know, he doesn't want any fanfare. He's not trying to be noticed. But as everyone's sort of heated and speaking about this event, we just see this old man, you know, going about dusting the place.
Fantastic. Diane, you're up. So how are you going to deal with this titanic jade stag? Diane?
I think the aim of what I'm doing is trying to intimidate it with my flame burning brighter than the one that's above its antlers.
That sounds good to me. Let's do a risk roll. Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'm using my immolate ritual, so I've got to include a dark die for that, right?
Yeah, you have the skills of ferocity, so I'll
And
give you a light die for that.
yeah, or even
Or
presence.
illusions.
I was
or
thinking is this.
presence.
Yeah.
You have one light die. Jack, you get to be the spirit of the forest here. What could go wrong?
I think the sister will see that you are weak, that you're not a worthy companion to have. And so, as you try to cast this, I think you will essentially just create this sort of nuclear explosion that's sort of contained to you, and you'll just leave this sort of crater in the earth that will grow over time.
And Jack, you can also make the devil's bargain.
Devil's bargain is just that you become much more stag-like in your appearance. Maybe like the antlers become flames, or you start to walk on all fours. It's up to you.
I'll take that. That's too good to pass up.
2 light, 1 dark.
So that's 6 light and 6 dark.
Dark is what holds sway. So it's a 6 dark.
Yes.
Your ruin will go up to 5, but you fully succeed. Describe how you intimidate the thing away.
I think just as Diane performs this ritual, it's almost like an explosion of gasoline coming out from inside their armor as the flames just shoot up even taller than the stag into the air above them. And the brightness is, you know, it might be even that some of the other treasure hunters can see the brightness from far, far away. And after a moment, the stag just, its forelegs bend and it just drops to one knee in front of Diane.
Very good.
But as the flames dim down again, we're left with these burning antlers that are now projecting from their head.
Valen, aided by the nameless saint, you are the first to arrive at the flocculent cathedral. A path of white moths has led you here, and you see it. Visible through the trees are glints of silver and jade. You can hear sounds that are almost like hymns, but they are like the voice of the fen. It's It's frogs and dragonflies and insects and other things making sounds that are like music, like a choir. The cathedral itself is a natural grove of massive, tightly packed trees, utterly overgrown with thick layers of moss and lichen that are many feet thick. They encrust the tiny gaps between the tree's boughs, making a sort of structure. But as you approach, you can see, barely if you get close within the gaps, that inside the structure it is indeed like a cathedral. You can see an altar made of what appears to be meteoric iron, a delicately wrought silver candelabra, and intricate statues that make up the stations of the saints. A heavy tome bound in verdant green leather and banded in intricately worked copper rests on a smooth stone lectern, and surrounding it all are stone pews draped in thick moss, decadent and somnolent. The nameless saint appears to you there outside the walls of the cathedral. She says, "There are two ways still inside. You can climb high and go through the bell tower," and there is indeed a bell tower. Or, and she points to this body of water that the cathedral partially is submerged in, dive deep and come up through the well in the center of the cathedral. Whichever path you choose, I recommend you lay a trap so the others cannot follow. And Ben, you will tell me secretly which path you chose and which path is trapped. If you want to trap it, you don't have to, but if you do, that's what we'll do. And let's take a 5-minute break because that is the conclusion of Ring 4. Ring 5. I don't remember the mannequin not making it all the way. Yes, well, there is some discussion about that. There is a lot of thinking about what really took place with the mannequin. But of course, I have studied these matters, many, very, very reputable secondary sources on the Flocklin Cathedral, and I have come to the conclusion that indeed the mannequin did fall apart at the woodcutter's feet when they encountered the bloated monstrosities. Tragic, yes. I heard that just the legs fell off and the woodcutter wore the mannequin like a backpack the rest of the way. Yes, well, that's absurd. That did not happen. I heard that the head could still talk, that it was still sentient, and that the woodcutter kept the head and put a candle in it and made a makeshift lantern out of it. That's just preposterous. Don't be ridiculous. The technology of mannequin creation back then wasn't so sophisticated. No, the mannequin was destroyed. That is what true scholars of the Flocculent Cathedral legend believe. Backpack. Ugh. Anyway, let's proceed with the tale. The woodcutter and the flaming goat knight met, reunited, at the base of the Flocculent Cathedral. Indeed, Parda and Diane, you have arrived at the Flocculent Cathedral well after Valen, but you don't necessarily know that. As far as you know, Valen just got away from you. Parda, how has Diane changed physically?
I don't think I recognized them at first. I think they're just really unrecognizable because before, they were wearing the armor and didn't really have a good idea of what their physique, actually looked like. And now it's this deer goat person on fire. So I think at first, I think I'm seeing another forest creature. And I think I hide.
Yeah, I think a lot of the armor has fallen away where the deer form is bursting out, and what remains of it is burning white hot. I have that condition. So yeah.
I think
Don't
you
look
still look
a lot like I
rotting to
used
me,
to.
though.
There is a woman there. A woman you recognize, Parda, as Saint Fione of the Woodcutters. How do you know?
She's exactly like how she is depicted in all the stories. She is beautiful and frightening. She holds out, I think, probably my axe, exactly my axe. And I know it's mine. It's not a different axe. It's the one that I have. And gestures at it. Only Saint Fione could do that.
Make a ruin roll.
My ruin goes up to 5.
You are at 5 ruin. Saint Fione. She tells you you can enter the temple. The cathedral is available to you, my child. You can go up through the bell tower, or you can swim down below. Underneath the cathedral, come up through the well. The choice is yours, but you must hurry. You must reach it before that one. And she turns to look at Diane. I think because your ruin is going up, you see that Diane is not wreathed in flames. Diane is wreathed in rot. You have to get there so that Diane can't cause the cathedral to rot away. What do you do?
I do a prayer gesture to Saint Fione, and I hold my hand out hopefully for the axe that she holds in her hand.
She gives it to you.
I take it, I give a very low and deep bow, and then I run towards the cathedral. My plan is to use my axe as sort of I don't know anything about rock climbing.
Like
The
a
thing,
climbing,
the
climbing
climbing
thing.
hammer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Diane, you can see that Parda is trying to climb up the mossy wall of the cathedral. This is probably very difficult because it is covered in quite a lot of moss. But nevertheless, Diane, you also know that there are 2 ways in. Perhaps Saint Ara whispered it to you earlier. Which way are you going to go?
Well, I think the dream earlier guided me. The way is down through the water.
Indeed.
And the heat and flame of given off by Diane is going to burn and boil the water away around me as I go that way.
Valen has already reached the interior of the cathedral, unknown to the 2 of you, and Valen has trapped the way that Valen went to get into the cathedral. Valen, please go ahead and roll a reduction roll to see if the person who's taking the trapped path notices the trap.
A 1.
They do not. Parda, you are climbing. Diane, you are swimming, trying to burn away the fire. Diane, you run headlong into the magical trap Valen has put on the water. Valen has used the clock ritual to slow down everything in the water in an attempt to drown whoever gets inside. You cannot get up fast enough to not drown. And so, Diane, that's what you're up against. It's going to be a risk roll, or alternatively a contest roll if we like it that way, but I'll leave that up to the two of you. Valen's not quite right there, so it's kind of Ben's choice.
I feel like Valen would have already moved past the water.
Yeah, I think so too. Diane, this is a risk roll. Jack, what could go wrong?
The water will, well, you'll be suspended in water, and the water will eventually just suffocate you, drown you out, and you'll be lost beneath it.
Let's talk about your skills. I will give you a light die just because of your fiery body, Diane. So you've got a light die there.
Or would that count as a dark die since it's ritual based?
Oh, I guess it might. Oh, because you have immolate. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, so then what about...
Which is how the fire started, yeah.
So then maybe ferocity gives you the light die, possibly? I don't know.
If you'll take that, I could make that argument, yeah.
Yeah, if you narrate it that way, I'll have
the
it.
determination.
The determination, yeah.
Determination to push through, yeah.
Jack, you can offer the devil's bargain as well.
No matter what, when you come out, your fire will be extinguished, and the sister will not look favorably upon you again.
Ouch. Tough offer.
I'm going to hold off on that one for now and try it just with
One light, one dark.
one light, one dark. 5 dark.
All right, 5 dark. You are going to succeed. There is a complication. The complication is that Valen will have time to get into position to deal with you if needed. But you are swimming, and we'll get
Does
there.
my ruin? Does my ruin go up on the 5?
What was your ruin presently?
5.
No, it stays the same. It only goes up if it's higher.
If it's higher, yeah. I wasn't sure if it was equal.
In that case, it's just if it's higher. Meanwhile, Parda, as long as you don't mind arriving last, Parda, I don't need a risk roll if you take the time. But if you want to get there before Diane, you got to make a risk roll.
I don't mind arriving last. I kind of have this idea that I can climb up to the top and then look down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I have a thing I want to do when I'm looking down.
Okay, we'll get to that in a bit.
Cool.
Valen, rewinding a bit, Valen, you get up through the well. That was as the Nameless Saint said it would be. And the Nameless Saint, you see her there in the cathedral, but now she's tall. It's almost like a Star Wars hologram thing, like looming over, right? She's there. There are these ghostly moths just flying all over the place. She speaks. Below the altar are stairs that go down into a subterranean chamber beneath the cathedral. There you will find all the treasures necessary to fulfill your heart's desires, but only yours. None other can cross the threshold. There are 2 more coming. Make your preparations. Also, you must spill blood to move the altar. What do you do?
Well, first he will prepare his trap by whispering a ritual into the sand in that little bottle and then pouring it into the well that he crawled out of. And then I think he's going to I imagine something of rock has fallen somewhere moss covered, and he's going to grab the sharpest looking one he can find and crouch down next to the altar and wait.
Diane, you, as soon as you're sort of like halfway down the water, you realize that the water's been ensorcelled. Please describe how you otherwise survive and indeed get up through the well.
I think the nature of the ritual that Valen had put on the water is very literally affecting the water itself. And because Diane is this burning white hot creature, as they move through the water is like boiling and evaporating away from them. So the effect is minimized because they're kind of destroying the water as they move through it ahead of them. So they emerge from this well just as this huge cloud of steam, and then the burning stag-headed knight rising out of the water.
As you come up through the well, you see everything I've described in terms of the interior of the cathedral: the silver candelabras, the pews covered in moss, the altar made of meteoric iron, and the book atop the altar, or on the lectern in front of the altar. You also see Saint Ara, the torchbearer, but she is spectral, she is looming, she reaches up to the height of the cathedral, but you know it's her because her face and hands are aflame. And she speaks. She says, "To achieve all you desire, you must spill blood on the altar. A sacrifice must be made." You're not aware of Valen being in there, except maybe if you intuit that Valen trapped the water. But in any case, we're going to pick up with Parda. Parda, you are at the top of the cathedral, looking down.
When I look down, do I see anybody?
I don't, like down inside the cathedral?
Yeah. Do I see Valen or Diane?
Sure, yeah. I think you see Valen lying in wait. You see
Cool.
Diane coming up through the well.
I would like to use my ritual feral. Since this is covered in moss, I would like to increase the size, temper, and monstrosity of a tardigrade that is living in the moss to drop down into the cathedral.
I love it. It's very good. Yeah, that's fantastic. Valen and Diane, what will you do once you realize this gigantic tardigrade water bear is falling down atop you?
I will try and engulf it in flame before it can get close to me.
Valen, will you just let Diane deal with it and keep lying in wait, or what?
I think so. I mean, something's going to survive, and that's what he'll attack.
Indeed. Diane, I think this is going to be a contest roll between you and Parda.
All right.
Okay.
Bring it.
Let's I'll remind you of the rolls here. A light die if your occupation or or basically if you have a skill here. What do we think?
Beasts again.
Ferocity.
Ferocity, beast, sounds good to me. You take a light die for each mark of ruin. Diane, you have 5. Parta, you have 5. You are both up to 6 light. You get a dark die because of the inherent danger of what you're doing, so you're up to 6-1 each, and then you get to add 1 or as many extra dark dice as you wish. Whenever you're locked in, please say so.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Roll. Oh, okay. Parta risked 2 extra dark dice and got 1 6, though no 1s on the dark. So basically, Parta's ruin doesn't go up. Diane risked 5 extra dark dice and got 3 6s total, but also 1 ruin. So, Diane, you ruin out, but you do win. I think your winning is basically going to make it so that Valen can remain hidden, or at least, or like get, not be in danger of the tardigrade, and indeed set himself up for Parta. But otherwise, you are dead or ruined, or you can describe how you're lost to the forest. But Parta, you're in control here, so describe what's going on. Or no. Diane's in control. Describe destroying the tardigrade, Diane.
I think, yeah, as the tardigrade comes down, Diane just kind of turns up toward it and reaches out their hand and using the kindle ritual, just a jet of flame shoots forth and engulfs this thing, and the flames are leaping up high into the cathedral near where Parta is, but not quite high enough to hurt her. But the upshot of it is that this burning tardigrade comes and lands right on Diane, and the two of them are just lost amidst this thick cloud of smoke and flame as the two of them start burning together.
Valen, you will be able to prepare for Parta, either attack Parta right now somehow or just do something else. What do you do?
Parta seems distracted. He's going to take advantage of that.
What do you do?
As the smoke kind of roils and hopefully obscures his presence, he's going to rush forward with that rock raised and try and get Parta in the back of the head.
So Parta's actually up high in the... She's looking down from the treetops that make up the cathedral. So you have to do something kind of long range.
I'm going to rewind the tardigrade so that it's not dead.
Oh. And then what?
Hopefully it will be a surprise enough to Parta that it will be her problem.
Oh, I see. So you're going to just like rewind the tardigrade and throw it on Parta. Yeah, that's pretty good. Or have it go back up to Parta. Intriguing indeed. Diane, regrettably, you are still burned up. And Rob, as the symposium is sort of not cheering, but like, kind of like, heartily enjoying the part of the story where the flaming knight, ironically, is killed by a flaming giant insect. The Scoundrel's Quarter gets reduced to 2 ruin. Please describe how, in the scene you can tell that the forest is receding.
I think we see at the edge of the Calder where it's starting to enclosed on the Scoundrel Quarter, there are organized teams of people building controlled burns to just push the forest back. And yeah, there are just on the edges of town. There are just these huge towers of flame as the trees start to burn.
Parda, once you realize what Valen's doing, what will you do in response?
I'm going to drop down from up above onto the tardigrade, so it can both stop my fall from me getting hurt, and also so I could drive my axe into it as I land.
Okay, good. I like it. Another contest roll. Let's do the thing. Do you each have a skill that gives you a light die?
Beasts.
Beasts.
I also have strength.
Oh, strength is pretty good here.
Yeah.
Rituals and or deception.
I like rituals. I think that's probably like the most key thing here. Valen, you have 4 ruin, and Parda, you have 5. So Parda, you have 6 light dice, and Valen, you have 5 light dice. You both have 1 dark, so it's 6-1 and 5-1. And then risk as many other dark as you wish.
I'm ready.
Me too.
And roll. Okay. Valen risked 2 extra dark dice and got 1 6, but also 1 ruin. Parda risked 2 extra dark dice and got 2 6s and no ruin. So, Parda, you win. Please describe how you are safe.
Out of the steam comes this tardigrade. It's getting smaller as it rewinds in times. It comes up towards me, and it takes me a moment to really even understand what I'm seeing. When it suddenly stops, when it's up close to me and starts to fall again, I react more by instinct than by good planning, and I drop down onto it so that as it lands, I land right on top of it. And tardigrades are notoriously soft and squishy, so I land on it like a big marshmallow that I then drive my axe into. It spews out tardigrade juices all around, which I think helps put out the steam and makes it a little bit easier to see in here. And I rip my axe back out of the tardigrade and jump down, looking towards where I now know where Valen is.
Now, this turn of events, of course, is where the story gets somewhat controversial. The followers of Saint Fione have traditionally loved and indeed embellished the story of the Flachland Cathedral so that the woodcutter not only comes out on top in most of the conflicts within the group, but does so with, frankly, an absurd level of over-the-top heroism. Nevertheless, the stage is set for a final showdown between the woodcutter and the mage. Indeed. Parda and Valen, you are both there. One of you must have your blood spilled on the altar in order for it to open up and give access to the treasures below. Let's just have the scene with the 2 of you.
Valen will hide the rock behind his back and say, Parda, I'm so glad you've made it.
Are you?
Yes,
Are you really?
of course. What use is immortality without friends to share it with?
What immortality?
I have met an old one, and she knows how to defeat, at last, the ravages of time. I can share this
Don't
gift.
you understand that time is a gift? Time is what helps small trees grow into beautiful, tall, old trees, which then lead to seeds and new trees and rebirth.
For trees, perhaps, but for us mortals, it is a curse. We age, we die, we don't see what comes next.
Balin, from what I am seeing right now, you're already aged and dying. You're going to stay like this. That's your plan?
No,
Perhaps I should put you out of your misery.
I've come too far for that, Parda. I could share, but if you won't have it, I
will
suppose I do
not
need blood.
stand in this miraculous cathedral and see you pollute it with your rot. It deserves
Very well.
respect as a living thing.
Very well, then you shall not stand at all. And he'll rush forward with the rock.
Very good. Parda, I assume you're going to try to strike him back.
Yeah.
Let's have a contest roll to see who's dead at the end. Who has a skill that will be helpful here?
I have strength and intimidation.
Okay. Valen?
I don't think anything helps.
Okay, Valen is not doing great in the skill department there. Very well. Let's keep looking at things. You both are getting 5 light dice for your ruin. So it's 6 for Parda and 5 total for Valen. 1 dark die each. So 6-1 and 5-1, and then make your wager.
All right, I'm ready. Let's go. Frick.
Okay. Valen risked nothing extra and got no 6s. Parda risked 3 extra dark die, got 2 6s, but also 2 ruin. But Parda, you win this part of it. So describe how you kill Valen.
I think as Valen comes towards me, I haul up my tardigrade juiced axe and rush him. I'm so much stronger than he is, and I push him back onto the altar with such force with the handle of my axe that it bends him backwards and his head smashes off the altar, spilling blood all over it.
And yet you are ruined. You are lost to the forest. What does that look like, Parda?
I think the blood spills on the altar just as it was supposed to, just as the nameless one promised Valen that this would open it up. This would open up the stairway. And I think it's just as simple as the altar shifts and I fall down the crevice to be trapped and suffocating behind the stairs until I perish.
And so, in the Flocculent Cathedral, we have a very interesting and informative history. All 4 of the treasure hunters, in their own way, followed the sisters deeper into the mire, deeper into the fen, and indeed into the heart of the Flocculent Cathedral. All of them did as was asked of them, and all of them perished. We don't even remember their names. They left literally no mark on the world other than this story, which is mired in controversy. And so I posit to each and every one of you here today that even though in ancient times the sisters were more, or shall I say, the entities that call themselves the sisters were more on the nose in their duplicitousness, that their dual nature can be viewed even today if you know where and how to look. Am I speaking a heresy? Yes, I suppose. But I am speaking these words in the Scoundrel's Quarter, which is just beyond the grasp of the crown and the king's guard. And so take my words as you will. Process them, think about them, consider them. Do your own research if you must. Maybe you too will achieve a more enlightened state. There's no applause. Everyone just gets up, grumbles. Tekla, what'd you think of the talk?
I think Tekla has notes on potential inaccuracies in some of the history, but it's an interesting interpretation of what is written and what is known and what is told about this occurrence.
Indeed. Indeed, indeed. So, our treasure hunters, our trophy gold treasure hunters, a number of weeks, maybe even months, will pass after the events of the last time we saw you. I'm going to put some possible options on the table for you in terms of what you want to do next. We'll talk about those in a bit. But first, each of you have had some weeks to just relax in the Scoundrel's Quarter, gather your energy, spend some money. I'm curious, now that the Scoundrel's Quarter's ruin is reduced to 1, how does that reflect in your time here? How does the forest feel as further away than ever?
For Malkuth, I think it's because there's not the kind of suffocating claustrophobic energy that the forest gives off when it's so close to the quarter. Now that it's been pushed back, I think he feels more free to be open with his feelings, with himself, and with the others. I think over the course of the how many weeks, he would have probably been more sociable. He wouldn't have been spending so much time in the well. He would have been helping out Kazian with their apartment. I think he would have been tagging along with Magda, maybe indulging in some of her stories, and also maybe like trying to talk through some of the guilt that she might have still felt from what happened with Bana. And I think he would have also wanted to have some time with Tekla to talk about what actually happened at the tomb of the king, Orseo, I think his name was. What is it?
Argil
Yeah.
Seo.
Argil, oh yeah. But yeah, he would have wanted to finally get answers about that, and wanted to get sort of wanted Tekla's perspective on Jeffrin and who he was leading up to his demise. But yeah, I think otherwise he's just been much more not lighthearted, but he's felt more relaxed and more open to engaging with others.
I think Magda has been enjoying a plentiful amount of butter. And it doesn't even smell that bad in her little apartment above the goat pen, considering, you know, Butter has been sitting out in the open for months in there. And I think, yeah, she's just enjoying herself. She's been writing a lot of letters to Ambaret, to her fiance, who she doesn't know his name or how to contact him, but she assumes that if she writes letters to Ambaret, they'll get to him eventually. She also has gotten over some writer's block. She finally finished the words to Magda and the Pond of Teeth, which she is going to be sending out to her publishers. And her publishers, of course, are street boys that she pays to like copy over the lyrics and then spread them out like pamphlets, so that people, you know, can learn the song. Yeah, it's been nice. She feels a little bit like a celebrity, which is how she wants to feel.
I think we see Cassian walk out from a building in a darkened corner of Fort Durin. And he has his cloak back and he's holding his staff now with his left hand. But as he walks out past the borders of Fort Durin and moves toward the woods to this little altar he has set up, we see him pull up the sleeve to his right arm and flex a mannequin hand that has been affixed to the stump.
I think we see Tekla taking in the sunshine that is actually breaking through into the Scoundrel's Quarter without the forest looming over things, and which always seems to bring with it this overcast, gloomy air. And yeah, she's sitting out on a balcony above the street with a table and a pile of books, and yeah, actually soaking up this bright, warm sunlight.
Some options. There is a lord in the Lavasti countryside who is willing to finance your claim over Hester's Mill and Torrens Bend, to work the land and build it and get people to come to it and to basically redevelop that area under your stewardship, which would ultimately lead to Hester's Mill being a new base for the group, which would change the nature of the campaign. New dangers, not the Scoundrel's Quarter anymore, but Hester's Mill now. Dangers probably related to the fact that a demon roosted there for 100 years. But, you know, in any case, you could go see this lord about getting some cash to get this done. Option 2, you can follow up on this theory that Bana can be rescued from the Shadowlands based off the little glimpse of said lands that Cassian got when using the astrolabe at the Temple of the Peerless Star. That's option 2. Option 3, the ruins at the heart of the forest, the tomb of King Argiel Seo, has led the way to possible entrance into Old Kaldur itself, where there are no doubt treasures of incredible, fabulous value to be found. This option is what Patience Davies and Eotho are most interested in, ultimately. But I think as a group, you should hash it out right now and tell me what you want to do.
Well, I think Tekla, despite being new to the group, is going to be arguing strongly for that last option. That's
I want to
the
bring Ben
only
back.
one she's interested in.
I think Malkuth, having listened to some of Kazian's stories about this glimpse of the Shadow Realm, and having still felt sort of guilty about what happened to Bana, I think he's pushing for visiting that place that Kazian went to try and get it back.
I think Cassian is a little torn about it because his faith would not be for bringing Bana back. No life is more important than another. But Cassian, the man, would be want to make right what Magda did wrong. So he would be for that.
Interesting. So that's 3 votes for Bana. Unless Tekla just has a real, like, strong, hard opposition to it. That's what we're going to do.
I don't think she's too new to the group to have that stronger sway.
And think what you could learn.
She's forced to go along with it. Oh yeah,
Uncharted territory, you know.
Indeed. I need 15 minutes to prepare then. So we'll take a 15-minute break. We'll come back and we will start this new adventure. We are back. Now, the advantage of all the mapping that you've been doing, that Ben's been doing, is you can travel between map points for free, essentially. And so getting to Ambaret does take a few weeks, but it's an uneventful trip. As long as you stay to mostly traveled roads, don't pay too much attention to omens, pick up weird toys left on the side of the road, as long as you avoid said things, run away from bells, you will be fine to make it to Ambaret, where the Temple of the Peerless Star awaits you. See background. Where the astrolabe awaits. But
My fiance.
your fiance, indeed. But first you're in the city. And no matter how hard you might try, nothing that happens in Ambaret slips under the notice of Eotho. Indeed, Eotho's messenger sends word to you, or gets word to you all, that Eotho would very much like to host a dinner for his 3 former and 1 current employee. You can all be in the pub with this invitation in hand, deciding what to do. It's tonight.
Well, I wouldn't want to disappoint Bena's old business partner.
Yeah, especially one who can probably have us all killed in our sleep. It's probably best to stay on his good side.
Perhaps
Tekla,
he
did
can
you
even
say that
pay our
you...
way into the temple.
That's a really good point, Cassian. He's supposed to be really rich, right?
oh, without doubt.
Tekla, you've worked with this person before, right? That's who hired you?
Yes.
What's your read on the situation?
I think it would be best to go along with this idea.
So what do? We dress up, right? And we're going to try and talk this guy into paying us to do a thing?
I mean,
I-
Cassian, I'm sort of
On further research.
I mean, Cassian, so you've been there, though. Is there anything that we should be asking for from him, or?
I don't think weapons would help us. But perhaps he knows something that will be of use. If he's as rich as they say, and as mortal as he sounds, path to the world of the dead will surely be of interest to him.
Oh, undoubtedly.
So it sounds like we're all going to Iotho's dinner. You have all been hosted by Iotho before. Tekla, you were all in his direct employ before. Tekla, you are theoretically still in his direct employ. And have been for a number of months. Though you have not reported back since being sent into the forest. The dinner is good. Excellent, even. You actually enjoy it before he arrives. They have this table laid out. Everyone please name one dish that is not just delicious, but is evidence that Iotho has more money than you will ever have.
I think in the blossoming sea, far out into its away from land, there are certain very dangerous animals. You could call them mermaids, though that's not their formal name. But they are harvested by Otho's people, and they look very different when they hit our table. But they do appear to sort of have like that merfolk appearance before they're prepared and cut down and butchered.
There is a vegetable side that's prepared with something called glass beets, and they're globes of translucent crystalline material of some kind that catches the light in fascinating ways and is quite delicious.
There's a tray of sizzling Navaskian frog legs with a variety of specialized mushrooms. The really amazing thing about this is that these are things that are only found deep within the Caldurian forest. So clearly, on one of the expeditions Iotho sent out to look for Old Caldur, somebody brought these back for him, and now we get to enjoy them.
I think he makes quite clear that all of the ceramic that we are dining on was all fired by the royal kiln.
After you're done eating this delicious, extravagant meal, Iotho's still not there. You are led deeper into his villa. to a more private chamber where he awaits you. He is laying atop a cushioned platform. His body is oiled to a sheen, perfectly hairless, and very little clothing. Covered in bangles and jewels, and quite a number of young men and women who are also scantily clad there for entertainment. He says, "Please, come in. It's so lovely to see you all again. It has been a number of months since we have been engaged. You must regale me of your tales in Fort Durin and surrounds." Please, sit. There are cushions laid out for you to sit upon.
Malkuth looks a bit uncomfortable, given his height and his general awkwardness, but he'll try to sit cross-legged in one of these sort of like large sateen-covered cushions and sort of just sits in his seat, adjusting himself constantly.
Initially, Magda goes for the head of the table, but then realizes her mistake and sits at the seat adjacent.
Oh, there's no table. This is just like a little lounging area.
The seat of most pillows, whichever seat looks the fanciest.
Indeed.
She goes for it initially. Yeah.
Cassian will sit, I think, the closest to the door that he can.
You will notice, since we don't have Rob at the moment, you will notice that as you look back, Tekla did not make the journey into this smaller room. And Diothos says, "The scholar is presently making a separate report for my men. As you know, she was sent on a very vital mission, seeking ruins at the heart of the forest. I wondered if she has been entirely honest, not just with me, but with you as well. Did she tell you, for example, that she did find the tomb of King Ardril Theo, indeed a route into Old Kaldur?"
She mentioned it somewhat, yeah. She didn't really get into details.
Give Malkuth a look.
Yeah, Malkuth's just keeping going. She didn't give many details about it, though. She said that it wasn't a great time for her and her crew.
Yes. Did she happen to mention that it was not mere happenstance that she ran into you on the road, that she was indeed sent?
By you?
If only. No, our dear scholar has decided to surreptitiously align herself with my rival, And Miss Patience Davies. She's spying on you. And
On
she
us?
has betrayed me.
What use would spying on us be?
I don't know. But I do not like being double-crossed. And so this situation is being handled directly.
Is it being handled permanently?
That is certainly one way of looking at it. I suspect we will be hearing the scholars' screams from deep within the villa directly. And we'll end the session there. Let's go to Stars and Wishes. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
I loved all the contest roles that we got into, and just how that it kept pivoting the way things seemed like they were going to go. It was good fun, and just the different appearances of this unnamed one, or the sister that everyone was associated with, was a really good way to lead us forward into the cathedral. And that was I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the framing device and how it wrapped up. I'm sad that Parda didn't get to actually walk away with the goods, but I think that was a suitably tragic trophy ending. And I'm looking forward to how we're going to handle this new issue with Tekla, because like personally, Cassian's not really bothered.
Cassian has no problem with the drama. I love that. My stars are very similar. I really loved how everybody interacted with the various spooky things that were happening, the various gods or sisters appearing to them. I thought it felt like a really personal kind of trophy dark experience. You could really see how these characters were having a personal experience and an individual experience in the forest. And I thought that was it was really cool. It feels like a horror novel I would read. And it'd be like so wordy and wonderful, and there'd be so much drama. And I want to read that now. I loved all of Osto's interactions with the bugs and stuff inside of him. I was hoping when I went for having all the bugs get sucked out, it would have like they were helping keep him together kind of thing. And you rolled with that right away. We were on the same wavelength there, and I thought that was just really kind of beautiful, like a really cool symbiotic relationship. And you don't really think of a mechanical being having a symbiotic relationship with living beings. So I thought it was really, really fun. I loved how Ben, you played Valen and all the teeth stuff. It was so gross. And I loved how much you rolled with all the grossness. We just kept ramping it up. We're like, yeah, also we see this with you, Valen. And now also you smell bad. And you rolled with all of it. And I really loved that. I also really loved your interactions with the nameless one, the nameless sister. I thought they were it was really creepy and frightening. And I want to see that movie. Of course, Diane with the white hot armor and dealing with the whole turning into this weird deer thing, and dealing with like the big Princess Mononoke part of the forest. It felt really full. It felt like we explored so much of what the Flocculent Cathedral could throw at us. And I'm really happy we did that. Jason, as always, your voices are always so scary. All the descriptions. I think there was some, I wish I wrote notes down, but I was being too scared. There was a couple of times where I was like, oh, this is like a word picture that I will not get out of my head ever again. But yeah, it happened a bunch this episode. So thank you for that. It's cool.
Yeah.
That's it. The description of the necks. Yes. Thank you.
Of the what?
Thank you, Ben. Ben put in chat the description of the necks. That's the one. That was like the thing that I'm just like, I hate that. It was so good.
Yeah. Overall stars. I really like the incursion. I'm sorry. It's one of those things where you get like a good table, and that with people who are able to create imagery with words, and you don't always find that. Luckily, this table is very good about that. So all the imagery felt very robust, very like present, very real. I thought the whole like tardigrade thing was really clever. It was a bizarre visual, but a great visual. I loved. I really. I don't know if it's like irony or like Alanis Morissette irony, but of Valen becoming acquainted with the Nameless One, despite the fact that he initially didn't believe or didn't respect these saints. So I like that sort of. I like that progression. And going back to visuals, the reason I brought that up was like the visual of this like massive flaming antlered knight coming out of this well full of steam was just very heavy metal to me, and I was very into that. And I liked seeing all the contest rolls. I've never been in a game with that many, especially in succession. It was like 4 or 5. So that's always fun to just kind of like wait and see what people will risk and the outcomes. I was sad to see Asta go so early, but I think it was appropriate. I like to imagine his little, or very not so little, centipede creature roaming the forest. His name is Bazo, by the way. But just
Gotta
roaming
have
the forest.
a Bazo.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I really like the session. I love Yotho. He's slimy and sleazy, in this sort of like horrible way that I appreciate. Malkuth is terrified of him, obviously, but I really appreciate that kind of character, and you do it very well, Jason.
Yeah, this is great. I really I think the thing I loved most about the 2 sessions that we did, the Flocculent Cathedral, I said it last time, but I was having a lot of fun with the framing device. The framing device was really enjoyable, and it was kind of like there was something almost like kind of a Greek chorus about it, which was funny. Like just the commentary about like how well the woodcutter's doing in the story compared to everybody else, and like all that stuff was really fun to it was kind of fun to just, as a keeper or a GM, it was fun to like play back and forth with that and to play off of all the things that were happening in the action. So I really love that. I thought that Osto's end was very sad and poignant, and a little terrifying in its way. Cassian kind of lying in wait, or not Cassian, Valen kind of lying in wait, to kill the characters, and all the different things that happened, and the traps and stuff was really fun. And yeah, I really enjoyed the transition back to the gold campaign as well. There was I thought everyone did a good job like describing their character, sort of like enjoying this lighter Scoundrel's Quarter, in this time, and also kind of like just kind of describing like the Yotha's dinner and all that stuff. There's lots of good little like touches that everyone kind of did today. The visuals were really striking throughout the entire session. I could really see all this stuff on screen, and so that was really great. And yeah, contest rolls super fun. It was the best run of contest rolls for Amanda's character that I've seen probably ever in a game. So that was pretty wild. You rarely survive more than one. Like, you know, I mean, you often don't even survive the one, right? Like usually, like you do it, you're dead, and that's it. Like just doing the contest rolls, like your death sentence, you know. So
I was saying when we
yeah.
were on break that this is the first time I've ever won a contest roll. And then
And you won like 3.
won-
Yeah.
I won, yeah, and it might be the best day of my life. I'm not saying that it is, but it might be.
And for Wishes, I'm just really excited to see how this situation resolves with Eotho punishing Tekla and what you all do about it, what Tekla is happening to Tekla. I'm excited to see what that is, how it affects the future of what you're going to be doing with the astrolabe and possibly rescuing Bana. Yeah, so just lots to look forward to. And I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything?
A quick couple of wishes that I forgot to add in. I'm really looking forward to this trying to rescue Bana. I know it's going to go really, really, really bad, and I'm excited to see how bad it goes.
We'll see.
I also think it would be really fun the map that Parda had from her cellmate. It would be fun to have that show up later as like maybe a link to
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
a mystery of some sorts.
Yeah.
Just because,
Yeah.
you know, random treasure. I love treasure. Yeah, just another little wish.
Indeed. Anything else? Nope. Okay. Well, in that case, I will wave goodbye. Goodbye.